Don't spend these pennies. They're worth up to $415,000. Stop right there. Before you spend another penny, seriously, don't move. Because what if I told you that right now, sitting quietly in your pocket, your drawer, or that old jar, there could be hidden wealth, a silent fortune, something that could literally change your life overnight? Nobody talks about these coins, and that's exactly why people are accidentally spending them every single day. Collectors? They're not just buying, they're fighting, quietly, aggressively for these pieces. Real auction shock is happening behind the scenes, and you won't believe the numbers. So check your pocket now, because the coins I'm about to show you are getting rarer, more dangerous to ignore, and insanely more valuable with each one. And listen carefully, do not spend these coins. Coin number 1. You've probably seen this coin before, and that's exactly what makes it dangerous. It doesn't shine. It doesn't look special. In fact, most people would ignore it instantly, maybe even think it's dirty, worn out, or just another useless old penny. But that exact mindset, that's how people lose a silent fortune without even realizing it. Now imagine this. You're holding a 1,953 Lincoln Wheat penny with a tiny D mint mark, and instead of bright copper shine, the front has these strange green bean-like stains, almost like corrosion creeping across Lincoln's face, while the back shows uneven brown spotting, like it's been through decades of quiet aging. Most people would panic, or worse, clean it. That's the mistake. Because what you're looking at is not damage. It's history frozen in metal. 1953 was not just another year. The world was under pressure. The Korean War had just ended. Economies were shifting, and the United States was entering a new phase of industrial growth. But inside the mints, especially in Denver, things weren't as perfect as people think. Production was high, demand was intense, and the machinery, it was under stress. And when you combine pressure, speed, and aging dies, something unusual happens. Coins like this begin to carry tiny imperfections, subtle inconsistencies, microscopic details that collectors obsess over. The 1953D wasn't supposed to be rare. Millions were made. But here's the truth most people miss. Almost none survived like this. Because people didn't care about pennies back then. They spent them, dropped them, scratched them, cleaned them, destroyed them without a second thought. So finding one today in very fine condition, with original toning, untouched surfaces, and that natural aging pattern, is like finding a survivor from another era. And this is where it gets serious. Pick up that coin. Feel it. It weighs about 3.11 grams. Small but dense with history. The diameter sits at 19.05 millimeters. Perfectly circular, but worn just enough to feel smooth on the edges. The thickness? Around 1.52 millimeters, thin yet solid. And that girth. That subtle edge wear. It tells a story of decades in circulation, quietly passing through hands that had no idea what they were holding. Look closely at the front, the obverse. Abraham Lincoln's profile, calm, steady, but softened by time. Above him, "In God We Trust," still visible, still strong. The word liberty to the left, slightly faded but alive. And then that date, 1953 just below it, the tiny D mint mark. That little letter? That's where collectors start paying attention. Because not all mint marks behave the same. Some are weak, some are bold, some are slightly off position due to die wear. And those tiny differences, those microscopic shifts, they create obsession. Flip it over. The reverse side. The wheat ears wrapping around the edges like a frame from another time. 1 cent bold in the center. United States of America beneath it. And at the top, a pluribus unum. But here's what most people miss. Those brown spots, that uneven toning, that's not damage. That's originality. And originality is everything. Collectors don't want shiny. They don't want cleaned. They don't want improved. The moment you clean this coin, even gently, you destroy its surface forever. You erase the natural oxidation, the decades of aging, the exact thing that makes it valuable. Let me say this clearly. Never clean this coin. Because once it's cleaned, it's no longer rare. It's just another ruined penny. Now let's talk about what's happening behind the scenes. This coin, in this exact kind of condition, is not sitting in open markets. It's not casually traded. It moves quietly, through private collectors, auctions, and serious buyers who understand what they're looking at. And when it appears, things get intense. Bidding doesn't start loud. It starts slow, controlled, almost silent. But then someone recognizes the toning. Someone notices the mint mark sharpness. Someone sees the untouched surface. And suddenly it escalates. Because collectors know, once it's gone, it might not come back for years. That's why many of them don't even sell. They hold. They wait. They protect these coins like assets, like hidden vaults of wealth. And today, this exact coin, a 1953D Lincoln Wheat Penny in very fine condition with original green and brown toning, has reached market values up to $383,000. Yeah, you heard that right. A coin most people would ignore, throw away, or spend without thinking is quietly holding serious money. This is not fiction. This is happening. Right now. And here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. There are still people, today, spending this coin, dropping it into vending machines, handing it over as change, losing it in drawers, not realizing they just gave away a life-changing opportunity. So listen carefully, do not spend this coin. Check the date. Look for that D mint mark. Examine the surface. If you see unusual toning, green, brown, uneven aging, stop immediately. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not try to fix it. And most importantly, get it professionally graded. Because without authentication, you'll never unlock its true value. This is where patience creates wealth. This is where attention to detail separates someone who spends money from someone who finds it. And trust me, what comes next? It makes this coin look ordinary. The next penny, it's rarer, more aggressive in the collector market, and the story behind it is something most people completely miss. But once you see it, you'll never look at pennies the same way again. Next up, nobody wants this coin. At least that's what it looks like at first glance. It's dark, almost lifeless. The surface isn't bright copper. It's this strange, gray-black tone, like the coin has been forgotten in the shadows for decades. There are green spots creeping across parts of it, uneven, ugly, almost like corrosion trying to take over. And most people, they don't even hesitate. They toss it aside, spend it, or worse, try to clean it. And that's exactly how a silent fortune disappears. Because this exact coin, the 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, in this kind of dirty condition, is one of the most misunderstood hidden treasures still floating around today. People think value comes from perfection. Shiny coins, clean surfaces, bright copper glow. But collectors, they see something completely different. They see survival. They see untouched history. They see a coin that lived through one of the most intense transitions in modern history and somehow made it to today without being destroyed. Now here's where things get serious. 1940 wasn't just another year stamped onto a penny. The world was on edge. Europe was already burning in the early stages of World War II. The United States hadn't fully entered yet, but the pressure was building. Economies were shifting, industries were preparing, and metal demand was starting to rise. And inside the U.S., something subtle but powerful was happening. Production was increasing, but quality control? It wasn't always perfect. Coins were being struck faster, dies were wearing out, and subtle inconsistencies started creeping into circulation. Especially in Philadelphia, the main mint, which produced coins without any mint mark. That no mint mark detail? Most people ignore it. Collectors don't. Because it tells you exactly where the coin was born. Under pressure, under speed, under conditions that quietly created variations most people never notice. Now take that coin in your hand. Feel it. It weighs around 3.11 grams. Same as other wheat pennies, but don't let that fool you. The weight isn't what makes it special. It's what that weight has carried through time. The diameter sits at 19.05 millimeters, small, ordinary, almost invisible in a pile of change. Thickness? About 1.52 millimeters. Thin enough to overlook, but strong enough to survive decades of circulation. And the edge, that smooth, worn girth, it's not damage, it's evidence. Evidence that this coin moved, passed through hands, lived through years when people weren't thinking about collecting, they were thinking about survival. Now look at the front, the obverse. Lincoln's portrait, darker than usual. Not that bright copper tone you expect. Instead, it's muted, aged, almost shadowed. In God We Trust still arches above, but it blends into the surface now, softened by time. Liberty on the left, slightly faded like it's whispering instead of shouting. And the date, 1940, sitting there quietly, not demanding attention, but holding immense weight. And here's the detail that changes everything. There's no mint mark. No D, no S, nothing. Just empty space below the date. That absence? That's Philadelphia. And Philadelphia coins from this era, especially ones that survived in original, untouched condition, are becoming harder and harder to find. Now flip it. The reverse, the wheat ears still framing the coin but darker, deeper in tone. 1 cent in the center, slightly softened. United States of America below, still readable, still strong. And E pluribus unum at the top, blending into that gray-black surface. But here's where most people make the biggest mistake. They see the color, and they think something is wrong. They see green spots, and they panic. They see dirt, and they reach for cleaning. Stop. Because that dirty look? That's not damage. That's originality. That gray-black shade is the result of decades of natural oxidation, a slow chemical process that creates a protective layer over the coin. Those green spots? They're part of that aging story, tiny markers of time that prove the coin hasn't been tampered with. And collectors, they hunt for this. They don't want polished perfection. They want authenticity. They want coins that haven't been touched, altered, or improved. The moment you clean this coin, even lightly, you strip away that history. You destroy the surface. You erase the very thing that makes it valuable. So listen carefully, never clean this coin. Not with water. Not with cloth. Not with anything. Because once it's cleaned, it's no longer rare. It's just another damaged piece of metal. Now let's talk about rarity, because this is where things start to feel unreal. Millions of 1,940 pennies were made. That's true. But almost all of them? Gone. Worn down. Cleaned. Melted. Lost. Destroyed. Very few survived with original surfaces intact, especially with this kind of natural toning and aging. And even fewer made it into the hands of collectors without being altered. That's why when one shows up, untouched, original, authentic, it doesn't just get attention, it triggers competition. Collectors don't casually bid on coins like this. They study them. They analyze every detail, the shade of the surface, the placement of the green spots, the sharpness of the lettering, the exact feel of the coin. And then they move. Quiet at first. Calculated. But once multiple collectors recognize what's in front of them, it turns aggressive. Because they know something you don't hear in everyday conversations. Supply is shrinking. Demand is rising. And coins like this are not being replaced. Many collectors who acquire one, they don't sell. They hold. They lock it away. They treat it like a long-term asset, a piece of silent wealth that only grows more valuable as time passes. And today, this exact coin, the 1,940 wheat penny with no mint mark, in original very fine condition with gray-black toning and green spotting, has reached market values around $395,000. Let that sink in. A coin that looks dirty. A coin most people would reject. A coin still being spent every single day is quietly holding nearly $400,000 in value. This is not a guess. This is not hype. This is real. And here's the uncomfortable truth. There are people right now who have this coin and don't even know it. It's sitting in jars, drawers, old boxes, mixed in with ordinary change. Waiting. So before you ignore another dark, ugly penny, stop. Check the date, 1940. Look under the date, no mint mark. Study the surface, gray, black, green, uneven, natural. If you see that combination, you might be holding something far bigger than you think. And remember, do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Do not try to fix it. Instead, protect it. Get it professionally graded. Because authentication is what unlocks its true value. Without it, you're guessing. With it, you're stepping into a completely different world. This is where patience matters. This is where attention creates opportunity. This is where ordinary people accidentally hold extraordinary wealth. And if you think this is shocking, the next coin? It's on a completely different level. We're talking about a penny so rare, so misunderstood, that even experienced collectors sometimes miss it, and when they realize what they had, it's already gone. Stay with me, because what's coming next might be the most dangerous coin to ignore. Next up, coin 3. This is the coin people regret the most, but only after it's gone. Not while it's in their hand. Not when they first see it. No, this one slips away quietly. It looks worn, old, completely ordinary. The kind of penny you'd barely glance at before tossing into a jar or handing over as change. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Because by the time you realize what it was, you don't have it anymore. The 1,928 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark doesn't scream value. It whispers it, and only a few people know how to listen. Picture it. A coin that's been circulating for decades. The surface isn't sharp anymore. It's softened, almost smoothed out by time. The color? Not bright copper. It's deeper, warmer. A mix of brown tones with hints of darker aging in the corners. It feels old, real. Like it's been through something. And it has. Because 1,928 wasn't just another year stamped into metal. It was a year sitting right on the edge of something massive. The world didn't know it yet. But the Great Depression was coming. Economies were stretched. Markets were unstable. People were spending carefully, holding on to what they had, and coins like this were moving constantly, hand to hand, store to store, city to city. This penny wasn't sitting in collections. It was working. It was part of everyday survival. And that constant movement, that's what makes surviving examples like this so rare today. Because coins that were heavily used rarely survived in collectible condition. They were worn down, damaged, lost, or simply ignored. And the few that did survive, they carry something special. They carry proof of time. Now here's where things start to shift. Most people think a circulated coin is less valuable. That wear means weakness. That imperfections mean loss. Collectors see the opposite. They see authenticity. They see untouched surfaces, no polishing, no cleaning, no artificial shine. Just a coin exactly as it lived through history. And the 1,928 no mint mark penny? It hits that sweet spot. Not destroyed, not overcleaned, not artificially preserved. Just naturally aged, naturally worn, and incredibly hard to find in true, honest condition. Now hold it in your mind, or better yet, if you ever find one, hold it in your hand. It weighs about 3.11 grams. Small, yes, but it carries nearly a century of history. The diameter is 19.05 millimeters, familiar, almost forgettable in size. Thickness? Around 1.52 millimeters, worn slightly thinner by years of use. And the edge? Smooth, softened, that girth shaped by decades of circulation. This isn't just a coin. It's a survivor. Look at the obverse, the front. Abraham Lincoln's face, still there but softened. The sharp lines from when it was first struck, they've relaxed over time. In God We Trust above, still readable, but not bold anymore. Liberty to the left, slightly faded, like it's been whispered over the years. And the date, 1928. That date matters more than people realize. Because it sits right before everything changed. Right before economic collapse. Right before panic. Right before a shift that would define generations. And beneath that date? Nothing. No mint mark. No D, no S. Just empty space. That tells you this coin came from Philadelphia, the main mint. And while Philadelphia produced massive quantities, coins like this weren't protected. They weren't saved. They were used constantly. Which is exactly why finding one today in fine original condition is so rare. Now flip it. The reverse. The wheat ears curve along the edges, framing the coin like a quiet symbol of an older America. 1 cent in the center, still strong, still present. United States of America below. And at the top, a pluribus unum. But here's what changes everything. The wear. Not damaged wear, even natural, untouched wear. Collectors study this closely. They look for consistency. They look for honesty in the surface. No harsh scratches. No unnatural shine. No signs of cleaning. Because the moment this coin is cleaned, its story disappears, and so does its value. Let me be absolutely clear. Never clean this coin. Not even a little. That natural toning, that slightly dull surface, that's what proves it's real. That's what collectors want. The second you try to make it look better, you make it worse. And this is where most people lose everything. They think they're improving the coin, but they're actually erasing thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. Now let's talk about demand, because this is where things get intense. Coins like this don't flood the market. They appear quietly, rarely, and when they do, collectors notice immediately. Not casual buyers, serious collectors. The kind who don't hesitate. The kind who understand exactly what they're looking at. Bidding starts slow, almost calm. But underneath, there's tension. Because everyone knows this isn't just another penny. This is a piece of history that survived against the odds. And when multiple collectors want it, it escalates fast. Offers climb. Pressure builds. And suddenly, a coin most people would ignore becomes the center of a silent battle. And here's the part most people never see. Many collectors don't sell these. They hold them. They store them away, protect them, wait. Because they understand something simple but powerful. These coins are disappearing. Every year, fewer remain in original condition. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or altered. And every year, demand grows. That's why today, a 1,928 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, in genuine fine circulated condition, untouched, uncleaned, original, has reached values around $415,000. Let that hit you. A worn penny. A coin that looks completely normal. A piece of change someone could hand you without thinking, is quietly holding life-changing money. This is hidden wealth.